afternoon, Facebook. My name is Letitia Grant, and I'm the president of Women's Council of National Association of Real Estate Brokers. And I'm going to start off by saying this. I absolutely love our intro. I don't know about y'all, but I am
Yes,
in love with that intro. Thank
yes,
you, Madam Cecilia Marlowe, for playing that for us. So I'm excited to be here. As you all know, this is our bi-weekly, bi-monthly, I'm sorry, a broadcast. And today, this is Professional Women in Real Estate. And we're here today to talk about some topics of the professional woman in real estate. But specifically today, we're here to talk about home ownership. Has a different definition for us, and the us being women, the driving force for women homeowners. And we're really going to take a deep dive into the purpose and the cause and the reason that women decide to become homeowners. So I want to introduce you to our platform. I want to bring up to the stage Madam Cecilia Marlowe, who is the ones and the twos behind the scenes. And now, sometimes, as you saw last episode, on the episode talking
yes.
about social media. So she handles our social media.
Hello, everybody. Welcome and thanks for joining us.
And then, of course, none other. I want to be sure that we introduce our co host filling in for Miss Latanya Donaldson today, none other than our fantabulous Madam
Oh,
Cassie Stanley.
well, thank you so much, Madam President, for that intro. I'm going to try to see if I can do what Latanya does, but she does it with such ease. The only good thing is there's not a mic I don't like, so I should be able to talk through this one as well. But
We are
welcome to our professional women in real estate. We're so excited about what we're doing, the knowledge that we're bringing to all of our Facebook fans that's coming on and our members and friends. And so thank you, Madam President, and
of
welcome everyone.
Of course, Madam Cassie. Look, first of all, the only issue that we had with you was, is it fitting in your schedule? So we already know, as a co-host, you had that down. You ready to
Uh,
go.
all right.
Now, today, we also like to introduce a very special guest whom you saw on our very first episode, which is our third vice president, Madam Sunina Ellison Jones. Welcome, Madam Sunina.
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for having me, Madam President.
Of course, I'm so excited to have you on this platform today. We spend so much time talking. We have so much in common. One of the things is that we raise young men, right? So that's a whole nother topic, and that may be something we need to look at during the next series about these young men that we're raising. And I'm excited that you are chairing our Gen Z project. So
Absolutely, absolutely. That is underway. I'm super excited about being able to raise up the next generation, 17 to 24. That generation has a lot to contribute. So I'm excited about the Gen Z project.
exactly. So let's talk specifically about today. So you had a chore, and the chore was for you to bring the guest onto our platform today. Speaking of home ownership from the perspective of a woman. So I want to give you the honors of introducing our very special guest today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me just share with you a little bit about how Melanie and I met. She was introduced to me by who's now currently working in my office as my assistant. But she was looking to purchase a multi-unit property, an investment property. Melanie is an existing homeowner, and what I typically do with first-time home buyers is do a buyer consultation. And during our consultation, Melanie shared with me why she purchased her first property, and I'll let her share with you more about that. Her vision, she was really, really focused. I mean, the consultation, I was really impressed to the point where I felt like, she had already worked with me in the past. I didn't have to coach
Mhm.
her up. She understood the value of ownership and the role that she plays in her household as a woman and as a leader in this space. And so I want to bring to Women's Council of NAREB, Miss Melody, so you can share more about why home ownership as a woman, why that's important to her, and what she's done and what she's accomplished in some of her goals.
Good deal. Well, welcome, Melanie. Welcome to our virtual platform. We're so excited to have you today.
Well, thank you guys for inviting me. Thank you, Sunina, for that intro. Hopefully, I can keep up with all that wonderful things you said. I definitely am appreciative of this opportunity. I know personally, I was one of those people, especially initially. I hadn't even thought about real estate. It was nowhere on my, radar. People used to talk about real estate, and I'm like, okay, that's good for them, right? But it just changed for me, and I'm glad. And I told Sunina that to talk about it because oftentimes we think we can't do it when that's not true. We just sometimes it can look overwhelming, but it's just figuring out how to make it work for you.
Good deal. Well, we're gonna dive a little deep today. We're gonna get all in your business today because that's
That's
what we do over here on P Wire. We're gonna get all in. But let's start with some basic information.
Mhm,
Let's start with your name. For most of our audience, since we're virtual, they're from all over the place. The city that you're in,
mhm.
your age group, and your household size.
Okay. So my name is Melody Wilson. I am in Chicago. Household size, I am the mother to two wonderful children, a 13-year-old, pray for me. And then I have a 13-year-old girl and a
Oh
7-year-old boy.
no.
Exactly. So that's where the prayer was needed. I felt like I needed to simplify it because maybe I thought it was a boy. No, it's a girl. Okay. It's about my height. So pray for me again, sending all prayers to 18 and plus. But so I have the 13-year-old, I have the 7-year-old, and I am 38. I'll be
Okay.
39. So yeah.
Good
So
deal.
it's just myself and my children in my household.
Yes, so 38 would make you a millennial.
Yeah. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, that's what they call you. So I myself, I'm an exennial. So I try to coach and teach these baby boomers that there's a difference between a millennial and an exennial. You
Oh,
know,
there's a difference between what's the next one is the Generation Z
just
or
Gen Zs. So
after
some
us, right? So that's a
yes,
whole nother part. So while you're trying to get us, I'm trying to pray for them and work
Yeah,
with them. So
exactly.
I
and
love it. I love it.
yeah, by trade, I'm a therapist also, social worker,
Good
licensed
deal.
clinical. So yeah, I'm all in that.
Yes, I love it.
Mhm.
So we did kind of hear briefly, Madam Sanina, about how the two of you met.
Yeah, yeah. So she told, like she said, we came across each other by a mutual acquaintance. I have my first property, and I'm really was interested in purchasing the second one and trying to figure out how that worked. In that conversation, she recommended Sunina, and like Sunina said, we end up going from just the casual conversation about purchasing to this whole other life story about everything that came from that, and essentially, letting her know how much research I did. And she was really impressed because, there's so many pieces of this puzzle. I know we'll get into it, but it can be overwhelming at first. And I was definitely overwhelmed initially before I bought my first property.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Madam Sanina, Melanie said something, well, a few times this has been said during this conversation that she was already a homeowner and she decided to invest in a multi unit. Madam Sanina, I want you to kind of, because I know you're passionate about home ownership and investing in the goal of being a millionaire or, for every person that you meet. So I want you to kind of talk about just a little bit about that millionaire status for your consumers and how home ownership plays a role in it.
Mhm.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what a lot of people know and what we've heard is that real estate is the cornerstone for building wealth in this country. But what a lot of people don't understand is how it builds wealth.
Mhm.
And really, it's in the equity that that property builds. Another conversation that Melody and I had just earlier today was acquiring the property and allowing that property and holding on to it, allowing that property to build wealth is one of the fastest ways to generate wealth, allowing that property to build equity. Um, she and I discussed earlier, how long would it take for you or I to save $100,000?
Mhm.
Right? And so simply by owning real estate, that property is building equity, which is wealth that you can then tap into.
Mhm.
Um, and it operates in twofold. Obviously, owning the real estate itself creates the stability, right, for your home. It creates safety. but it also allows you the opportunity to build wealth utilizing that real estate and leveraging that real estate, because now you can tap into that equity to send your children to school, start businesses,
Mhm.
and amongst a number of other things. And in Melody's case, to leverage that to purchase the next piece of property. What impressed me about Melody when we met was that she intentionally purchased a multi-unit property as opposed to a single family home. And
Mhm.
I think Cecilia and I even had a conversation similar to this some time ago, which is that we coach our clients to home ownership,
Mhm.
right? And ownership is key.
Mhm.
And so I do agree with that. However, from a strategic standpoint, if wealth is your strategy, then the
Yes.
multi-unit helps you to accomplish that, because now it ultimately is paying for itself if done properly, right? And
Mhm.
Right.
so you're actually saving money while owning this property. So you're not paying out a monthly mortgage payment or monthly rent payment, or if you are, it's significantly lower than it would have been. And so
Mhm.
Yes.
that's forced savings that it creates. So that's one way to me, that real estate helps to build wealth is, it creates that forced savings. So I'll pause
Yeah.
right there.
Mhm.
I'm excited that you share that information with your clients because, yes, you are correct. It is two different journeys, and it depends on what your goals are that determines your track. What I'm going to say is, I'm going to share a little bit of information with the audience, but then from there, we're going to take this to a personal journey because everyone has a different personal journey.
Mhm.
So, according to Sheba, which is State of Housing in Black America, and that's published by National Association of Real Estate Brokers, the reports are that Black females are purchasing homes at a higher rate than our Black male population. So, there is a very specific driving force that's driving women to purchase homes at a greater rate than it is of men. I would like to first talk about why home ownership was important to you, Melanie. And then let's talk about your driving force, or are they one and the same?
I think that's a great question. Where I come from with my family, no one really talked to me about real estate, right? A lot of this was something I came across. Ironically, the concept really came from a Facebook post that I saw, and it was a free webinar. And, I was like, let me just see what this real estate thing is about. And in that webinar, they kind of talked about not just purchasing your home, because that's what we're taught, like to your point, right? Just buy a home, you're starting your wealth. Don't do that, right? Or do that rather. So, what this webinar talked about was how do we make that asset that your home work for you? So,
Mhm.
instead of purchasing a single family home, how much more of a difference is it to use that same money to purchase a two flat? And with that, with the two flat, for instance, I have tenants. And so I moved into the top floor. So my mortgage is taken care of. So
Mhm.
it's not
Mhm.
something that I'm purposely having to pay for. And I'm also reaping the benefits, like Sunina talked about, of ownership, right? And so the other part of that is this is not just an apartment. I own it, right?
Yeah.
It's a different feel to it where you're living in an apartment that you don't own, right? And for myself, it was important for me to have a legacy for my children, right? Because this is their apartment just as much as it's mine, our building. And so for me, it was me showing them that, let's start working on assets. Let's think about other than paychecks because we know, especially with this pandemic, that
Mhm.
can change in a minute. Right?
Yes.
It was expanding their understanding of how do we build wealth. We can go to work and they see me working, but how do we make some passive assets like this building?
Yeah.
Personally, I have my kids involved. Like they refer to the tenants as our tenants, right?
Yes.
So I really get them on board because essentially, we talked about what mortgages versus rent, right? And my
Mhm.
daughter's understanding, she's a little older, but my son also knows that we have tenants. So he's
Yeah.
like, hey, our tenants, like let's check on our tenants, right? And
Yeah.
when they're paying the rent, I have my kids take back the receipts. So they are invested too. And they're
Yes.
understanding these transactions.
So this took it even further than just saying my kids were my driving force,
Mhm.
because you also said you're moving them from paychecks to assets.
And
So
myself.
this is,
Mhm.
yeah, this is even bigger than just saying, oh, well, my driving force was my kids. I wanted to own a home because of my kids. Well, it's so much more than that. It's a complete mindset change now
It is.
for your entire family. Madam Sunina, I want you to think back to purchasing your first home, because we all have many different reasons as to why. We all have many different driving forces.
Mhm.
What was your driving force?
Oh, that's a great question. I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And for me, it just changed my entire trajectory in terms of how I thought about money and thought about owning. It gave me, I already at the time I worked for JP Morgan Chase. And so I just felt empowered that, hey, you know what? I can be a part of, owning in this country, and I can actually build wealth using real estate. And so my strategy at that time, I bought, I don't know, 20 years ago at this point, I bought a condo for the first time. And then I rented that out and I bought a second condo. And then the market tanked. And so I was a part of that whole thing. But when I first purchased my first property, I was able to pull cash out of that property and leverage that cash to purchase my next property. So they call that, house hacking now, or, whatever they call it. But the strategy was to use the real estate to build and purchase the next piece of real estate. So that was my strategy. For me, it was about building wealth from the very beginning, because in reading, I realized that, oh, there's money in property.
Yeah.
Let's figure out how to get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first piece of property, it was never designed to be my dream home.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so one of the, conversations that I have with, first time home buyers is, depending on where you are in life, this may not be your forever home,
Mhm.
but buy your first piece of property, buy the best property that you can afford, mitigate the risk as much as possible. And leverage that to purchase your next piece of property, which that could be your forever home, or maybe your forever home is further down the line, but get started and allow the real estate to build on itself to help you get to where you're trying to go in terms of your goals with real estate.
Absolutely.
It's so funny. I tell my clients that same thing. Your first home does not have to be your dream home.
Yeah.
My first home, I used it to leverage my life. So now for me growing up, home ownership, it wasn't necessarily something that I would say was a goal. It was like a requirement.
Mhm.
So my family, everybody, they own their home. So it was just something that we just did. But then, like you, Madam Sanina, I eventually realized that there's money in home ownership. Like could take my home, I could use the equity from owning this home and buy a second home. I can use it to pay for my college. It was just so many different things that I can do with it. And of course, after I had kids, now I want to show them the exact same thing as soon as I had them. So yeah, I think that home ownership, it just has so many options. The world is just open. But in moving forward with today, I want to even talk a little bit about the process. We have read and we're seeing all of the information that's being posted about the challenges for African Americans purchasing homes. We're no stranger to the statistics about credit scores and about us having a high rate of student loans preventing us from home ownership. But because you have made it through, what I want to do is I want to be able to provide encouragement to someone that's sitting at their desk or at their in their couch right now saying, I'm just not even going to try. I want to provide them with a little bit of encouragement about the entire home ownership process. We know that it's not super easy, but and I'm so, look, she's shaking her head. No, ma'am. Come on, just go and give it to us.
The process. So, just like a lot of the viewers, right? I have student loans that are a pain, over 100,000.
Yeah.
Initially, when I reached out about trying to get a property, I was deterred because a lot of the lenders were telling me, "Oh, we can't do anything with your student loans.
Hmm.
You can't get a property because you have student loans." Right? I went through at least 4 lenders
Yeah.
before I found one that was willing to talk to me about it. What I learned was that there's ways around it. So don't be discouraged, because a lot of they will just tell you no. And they're like, your student loans, and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to pay off $100,000 in debt
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
to get a building, right? So I say that to say, the right lender will work with you and talk to you about your options.
Gotcha.
Don't be afraid to go through a couple of them. Unfortunately, that one no doesn't mean no for everybody.
Yeah.
I bought my building in the middle of the pandemic. The pandemic had literally kind of just hit. So even the markers of getting property kept moving, right? In that crazy pandemic, everything kept changing. So they'll tell me one thing, and then next week they'll say, "Oh, we can't do that anymore. We need you to do this too." And
Mhm.
so it was a lot. Even without that, they want you to resend things. They want you to resend everything that you already sent them, right? So it can be challenging. I personally stopped once or twice, right? I kind of threw a hissy fit and was like, I don't need the building.
Did
However,
she really, Madam Sunina? Did she throw a hissy fit? She just said, "Forget it. I'm throwing in the towel. Forget it. All this hard work, I'm
not twice,
done."
not twice. Took a couple weeks off and I said, all right, I'm done. Right. I'm gonna go back. So
Yeah.
I mean it's realistically once you have a goal in mind, don't stop because they'll tell you quickly no, you don't
Yeah.
have enough money. How do you do this? And again, don't be scared to change lenders. And I
Yeah.
think for me that was the biggest part that I tell people. I tell everybody keep all your check stubs in a folder every month, print them out new. Keep all your documents in a pre-approval folder.
Hmm.
Everything every month, put a new bank statement into that folder, right? Because these are things that's going to keep coming up. And
Yeah.
how frustrating is it to keep having to go?
You know, I've heard you say, keep going, keep trying. But what role does faith play in this whole process?
Everything. If I did not have faith or felt like I was led to this, I would have quit personally. I am the main person in my household. I hold a couple job positions. I'm very busy. You know, tell you we always try to link up, and it's always a scheduling conflict. But for me, I just couldn't stop because I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no way that I was led to this, and I can't get it. And
Yeah.
so for me, again, it meant more than just me. It meant my retirement. It meant my kids having something to own. It meant showing them this other way as well. So it was all of that that came for me to keep me on the path.
Yeah. I want to share with the audience one more thing because my next question is about as an organization, and that's going to be for our chair, Madam Cassie. But I heard you say Sunina and I have tried to link up.
Mhm.
I want to share this with the audience. There's something about working with a realtist.
Mhm.
And for those of you that don't know the difference, being a realtist means you are part of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, which is the oldest minority trade association. Something about working with a realtist and how that relationship transforms from a professional relationship to then a personal relationship. I can't tell you how many housewarmings, baby showers, weddings that I've attended, and I know I see Madison and Madam Cassie both nodding their heads. It's relationship building, and we are definitely grateful to all of our clients, all of our buyers, our sellers, our investors, for those relationships. It just means so much. Now, speaking of relationships, Madam Cassie,
Okay.
as an organization, what more is it that you feel that we can do to make home ownership a reality for more families?
Well, I think just educating them and getting them past, I can't do it. Because, the Bible says God promised us all godly houses. And so one of the things that you talked about is not necessarily your dream home, but it's owning real estate. So I came from a completely different era than you young ladies. So I came back with the baby boomers, right? So back then, my grandfather owned lots of land. So he always said, little girl, make sure you own you some land because it never loses its value. So buy you some real estate. And when I went through, I bought my first home because how can I sell real estate if I don't own real estate? So that was my motivation.
Facts.
Is that I don't want to put you in a house and you say, "Oh, are you selling an apartment?" No, I need to teach you that I own real estate and the value of real estate. And even though we're in a different era, back then the interest rates was 17%. And so in my mind, if the elders could own a home at 17%, surely I can. And surely I can motivate others that don't be afraid. So
Hmm.
one of the things that you said, Melanie, was about shopping. And so when you shop for your rates, did it affect your credit score? I mean, for your different lenders, did it affect your credit score at all? Because I know a lot of people are afraid of that, of shopping. Melanie. Oh, okay. She's muted.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I
um,
wanted you to answer that because that's
yeah.
a fear I know of some buyers
Mhm.
of shopping too many lenders at one time, but you were determined that you're going to get you a loan and you're going to get the best loan. So did that have any impact on your ability to purchase?
So I did a lot of research, right? After I was inspired by that webinar, I'm one of those people, once the light goes on, I'm all in. And
Mm-hmm.
so in that research, I found that within those 30 days, right, you can shop different vendors
And
and not
you did
take
everything in 30 days. Very
right,
good.
such a
Good.
huge hit. So I was very strategic about anybody I was interested in trying to get it
Okay.
in 30 days.
Well, that's a good point because, and a good education point in that shop within the 30 days and it doesn't have an impact. But I think the Women's Council being the best affiliate of NAREB and composed of the best women ever, and we started in 1971. And one of our things is we teach to elevate women in the real estate industry so we can bring more people in and educate them. Education is the key, and you self-taught yourself. So when you got to Madam Sunina, you had some basic things already that you understood. So it made her job a little easier than a person, right? So I think that our foundation of education and elevate, bring other women into the industry and a few good men, so we can change this minority rate. We're at the lowest rate since 1968. And so my passion is, why would you make the landlord rich? Now you're a homeowner, so that's a little difference because you decide I'm no longer going to make the landlord rich. I'm going to reap that equity myself. And so we need to educate everyone else. If you can pay rent, you can pay a mortgage. Okay? Thank you, Madam President.
Of course, of course. Look, we always have to hear from you, Madam Chair. Thank you so very much
My
for
pleasure.
providing us with that information. And I love it when she comes on. She's like, I'm from a different generation. But you know what? You may be from a different generation, but I am here to tell you there is one thing that we all absolutely believe in, and we 100%, regardless of the generation, because right now we have three different groups on this line, and we
Yeah,
all 100% believe in home ownership.
yes,
So
we do.
there's so much that we share, regardless to what group we're all from.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Madam Sanina, before we go to the audience and questions, do you have anything else you'd like to add about this experience?
I just wanted to share, we learned so much from sharing stories. So Melody, I really appreciate you sharing your story of perseverance because, as a people, there's so many barriers against us already that exist for home ownership. And so being able to persevere through all of that to reach your goal, I think that is probably my biggest takeaway. It's extremely important not to give up.
Mhm. Very good.
Yeah, I love it. Good. Yes, absolutely. Not to give up. You know what? There's one thing that I failed to ask: the rent payment versus the mortgage payment, and you kind of
Yes.
touched on that a little bit. What were we looking at a major gap?
So in terms of what rent is versus, it's not
Yeah.
that much of a gap. And if you think about it, it's only a small gap for me because
Good.
I live here, right?
Yeah.
And so again, it has to make sense. It has to, instead of thinking about the rent being paid in one unit, I'm looking at totality, right? How much am I going to actually get from both units, even if I have to live in it a year because of the loan that I took out, right?
Yes.
How,
Okay.
when I leave, what does that look like, right? So when I do leave, I'm still making a profit. It won't be a loss.
Good deal.
Okay.
That look, that's all I needed to hear. I first of all, I can't believe that we're already on episode 3,
Mhm.
series 1, episode 3, and the next time you'll see us, we'll be at episode 4. And it's so funny that you are the segue into our next episode, which is investing in real estate. Big bucks are just a hot topic. And you've
Yes,
kind of given our audience a teaser about it really being big bucks.
yes,
Maybe,
yes,
right? They had to tune in for the real
yes.
next
Here,
episode with professional women in real estate. Madam Cecilia, do we have any questions from our audience? Any comments? What do we have?
We've got a great live audience that's joined us. They don't have any questions. I think that our panel and our guests have done a superb job today.
thank you.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I don't know about y'all, but I'm always excited to be here, right? It's
Me
like I
too.
get an opportunity to hang out with my women's council family and divulge a little bit of information and share with our Facebook audience and let them know what we're out here doing and how hard at work we are. For those of you that
Yes,
do not know, I am Letitia Grant, president of Women's Council of National Association of Real Estate Brokers, and this is Professional Women in Real Estate. And today we are joined with our fantabulous co-host, none other than I'd like to say I'm an only child. So I use the word my often. So I'm very conscious of trying not to do it all the time. But she is my chair.
and listen, and Madam President, I am an only child, so I can relate to that.
My chair, Madam Cassie Stanley. And then our chair of the Gen Z Project, which is a
Yes,
whole nother beast, right? And she's also our education chair, our third vice president, Madam Sunina
yes,
Ellison Jones.
Yes, I'm super excited to be with you both today. Great
yes,
information, great story shared, amazing platform. So thank
Yeah.
you.
yes, yes,
And for sure, thank you so very much, Melanie. And thank you so much, Madam Sunina, for inviting Melanie onto the show.
yes.
Absolutely.
Sharing.
Thank you, Madam Melody. You are Madam Melody today.
I'll take it. Thank you
We
guys.
we've adopted you. We Women's
Yes.
Council, we have adopted you today.
I'm adoptable. It's fine. I like it.
Okay. And look, we see that you are just a girl boss
You
building.
know, the shirt
Are you building your empire?
I am through real
All
estate.
right. We like that. We like
Love
that.
it.
That relates to the Women's Council. We're just girl bosses.
Trying to make it work, right?
Very
Trying to
good.
make this
Yes.
empire. So
Yes.
but I
Very good.
appreciate you guys taking me on the Facebook Live. Thanks for the invite, Sunina. And I look forward to talking to you guys in the future.
Very
Good
good.
D.
Thank you.
Well, our audience, we will see you on May 19th. Again, that episode is called Investing in Real Estate. Big bucks are just a hot topic. Stay tuned and you will find out which one it is. But don't forget to follow us, Women's Council of National Association of Real Estate Brokers. Log on to our website and just check us out. And if you're not a member, then you need to be a
Need
part.
to.
You guys
Yes.
have a great evening.
Thank you. Very good. Good evening.